ally to champion. Coming to one of the poorest Indian reservations in the United States, making my way through the boarding school, through homelessness, standing before you right now, I have an obligation to do all I can to make it happen. The fact that I don't have a, and I carry that obligation with me throughout. I will not rest as long as someone is in need of a fight. And I would be honored if I received the opportunity to fight. Well, Lou, thank you.
Hard and really alone is harder. But here I got you. So my name is Melody. I'm a PhD student from the School of Biomedical Engineering, and I'm here to be your next VP student. I'm standing here today because I believe community isn't a luxury for graduate students. It's what they get us to fail experiment, imposter syndrome, or a 3 a.m. writing session. And building this kind of community is like the work I've been doing for multiple years. So during my master at the University of Toronto, I served as the VP communication for the School of Graduate Engineering Council, where I represented more than 3,000 students and also led the professional development for the Graduate Society of Women Engineers. And in those roles, my mission was simple. I was trying to convert this communication into a real connection. So I organized school map scavenger hunt where the first year students can meet their peers and then also explore the city together. And turning the first week anxiety into first week friendship, and also coordinated the student gala where like different discipline students can also go into a room and then also share their story and then make friends. And then also as a graduate educational development, I mentored over 100 teaching assistants and then building peer network that lasts longer after the training session. And then here's also what I've noticed from my experiences. Community doesn't build by itself. It takes someone who continues to be there and then listen properly and also does the work. And that's what I'm here and I'm trying to do. My campaign has like this four priorities. First is to build a community that lasts longer. So not from like a single meetup that we don't see each other later. So you have a proper base system that like a monthly book club or like running groups and then even career talk where friendship has grown to grow. And the second, amplifying the voice. So GSS shouldn't be the one assume that you what you desire. So by incorporating this feedback system, and then you can actually see how you shape the different programming, and then how it actually influence our impact. And then third is about the inclusive wellness programming. So to have a culture meaningful event where every student feels seen, and then also low barrier space like a open coffee hours where you can see. Okay. Hi again.
I thought about the ones who wear today, some other questions and everything. And we kind of decided where that some of the stuff, I think it's where that if you want to change, you have to get involved. You have to see that issue. It's why when I graduated, I became a parliamentary secretary, and why I'm the person reserve. It's why I'm seeing great for because ultimately, if there are things that you care about and things that you find are important, you have to be the one to engage. You have to be the one to pay for it. Because it's not well, particularly, I'm curious because seems with the issue, particularly of the head of GSS and the distance it is from the distance of different structures and societies from one another and the alienation, the alienation that makes. But I'm also seeing particularly with the fight for research assistants to the university to seek university. That is an issue that keeps me up. I'm a member, my dad's a member, my grandfather has been allowed to join me, whatever the meaning. But so when I see the decision, when I see their first of all, also I'm kind of disturbed by the lack of BSS, the lack of fighting BSS education to pursue this position at high school. So what am I telling you all here today? I'm telling you all here that I'm here to fight for student accessibility, to BSS to services. I'm here to fight for a more integrated practice student system that is better accessibility for the needs, concerns, and issues that these students face. I'm here to fight for better transparency. Because ultimately, the university makes these arbitrary decisions, tuition increases 2 to 4% increase for making certain locations. It leaves us all worse. I just want to with this concern here that ultimately my goal here is to bring for substantial change to bring the GSS closer, to bring the GSS more active, and to bring the GSS in a position that is easy to achieve that everybody students feel. Because let's be clear, the student body is more than just this campus. It's hostile, it's isolation, it's isolated.
Hi everyone, my name is Angela and I'm a master's science student in the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. And I'm running for Vice President of External Relations to serve and help graduate students are represented both on and beyond campus. So in previous years, I've held several leadership positions in student organizations where I work to advocate for inclusive policies and resolutions that support diverse student communities. I've been invited to international conferences such as the Panoramic Leadership Conference in Orange County to speak on EI, think diversity and inclusion initiatives that university organizations have implemented and their success rates. I'm also the founder of a South Asian older women's community health group where I focus on knowledge translation for both nutritional and physical literacy. Basically empowering women in my community to implement healthy lifestyles and behaviors through a cultural lens. I'm also the co-founder of a tech startup where I led outreach, partnership development, and relationship building with many multinational external organizations. It's from these experiences that I believe I have the qualifications and skill set to be able to represent the community, communicate its needs, and build strong partnerships. So if elected, I aim to one, advocate for graduate student well-being by collaborating with UBC organizations, including the All Leader Society, to strengthen mental health supports for graduate students. This includes Indigenous students, international students, and parent students. Specifically, with persistent world events, our advocacy and support for graduate students should not be filtered by fear of political stances. As VP External, I will hold our university to a high standard of equal and noticeable support for our students. Second, I champion graduate student funding by advocating with university, government, and external organizations will improve the awareness of grants and funding opportunities available to our communities. Thousands of dollars in grants go unnoticed every year simply because people don't know about them. I want to bring awareness to these initiatives and also advocate for women. And lastly, I aim to expand career pathways by building strong partnerships with external organizations and industries to connect graduate students with meaningful career opportunities beyond just UBC. Running a startup has really allowed me to hone my skills in outreach and negotiating with companies. My goal is to provide more information to graduate students across all faculties about career opportunities, and also to build lasting relationships with external companies that our students can then leverage for their careers. So I will be more than honored and privileged to serve as your Vice President of External Relations, and I do hope to earn our community support. Thank you.
Hi guys, I think I'm for the first time I'm meeting you all because I was not there the last time. So I'll just say that have you ever thought that whenever you want to say something to the university or want to know something about the policy, you're finding it very difficult, or you want someone to be a mediator there, right? So I'm standing for VP of University and Academic Affairs, and I'll tell you why I'm the better person or better fit for that position. Before that, I'm Jhansi. I'm from sort of full of business. I'm studying MBA here. I'm new to Canada. I'm learning new, and it's everything new for me. So for me, my background is I'm a lawyer. I don't look like that, but I'm a lawyer. So I'll make sure that I listen from your side and also be a good mediator towards the university side also. So that there is no conflict between both all. More than that, my three pillar focus is like I keep more transparency. I focus that all the policies and everything are heard before they are made to everyone. And also there is no mystery on the policy and also more finding out what changes they have made before. And the second one is that I ensure that every graduate knows their rights, supervision rights, and I also academic dispute rights also, and also mental health formulation right. It's like knowledge is power. So if knowledge is known, then you will understand your rights and you can fight for that. Other than that, I'll also make sure that there is a support for career development. Uh, because all of you are graduating and you're thinking that you're choosing a career right path. So instead of making you uncertain after graduating, it should be a good career or career opportunity. So I'll make sure that there is a support for career development there. Other than that, that's it for me, but I'll make sure I'll be a good mediator between the university and the student. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carly. I'm running she, her pronouns, and I'm also running, I'm third final candidate for the VP external race. I have been doing one. So my undergraduate here, I know quite a few people in the room. And I think instead of focusing on what I could do for you guys, I want to show you what I have done for you guys. Right now, I'm currently a counselor, or not counselor, I'm a committee member for the GSS House Finance Committee and for the Investment Committee. I have a lot of background from that. I've also done a lot of work with the AMS as an undergraduate student here. You may or may not have heard all the fun things around the Skytrain rally that the AMS VP External Solomon Hearing has done. I was organizing inside that. I'm also a very active member in UBC-BTU, which is the prominent group advocating for a student tenancy agreement, so that student housing is included in resident tenancy agreements. That way, if we have a grievance with our housing, UBC, we can resolve that in a way that does not lead to unfair evictions or retaliation by trades, or in some cases, employment. I also am a member of Roots on the Roof, a food security group on campus, and have been advocating for Stark and Aurora with the university, with the municipality, and with the province for funding for our university campus since my second year, all the way back in 2022, where I was actually part of the probably now infamous FSI committee, food system security, which led to $500,000 every single year for the next 4 years going to the food bank. I say all of this as somebody who not only knows what it means to advocate for students, but as somebody who's done it. And really, when you're talking about external, it's not about the aspirations, it's about whether or not you get in the door. And I'm here to say, I've been in the door. I've been here about 5 years, and while this Canada is one of the longest things that I've ever lived in my entire life, it does mean that I do know kind of the roads, and I really think that's going to be able to help. When talking to graduate students about what they're going to see from a GSS rep, unfortunately, the most common question I got was, what is the GSS? Is it the AMS? And the answer is no. And I think, that's something we really have to reckon with as an org. If graduate students don't know we exist, how can we serve them? How do we get graduate students involved? I think it's also really important to say that as an active member of both PP Senate and PP National, and a committee member on both, it is incredibly important that we get our decision and get to the table with DBC. Graduate students need to have fair working roles. They need to be paid fair wages. I better be able to understand my pay stub, and oh boy, I better be able to understand how many hours I'm working, what my expectations are. None of these right now are currently agreed upon, and right now the issue is honestly the labor board. We need some more support there. We need to be funded. We need to get the massive backlog back there, and that means talking to DC and being like, hey guys, if we can get this moving on, that would be fantastic. And that's my role as VP External. It's not simply just to liaison with groups on campus, it's to liaison for you at the provincial and federal level. And while this is time to do for the GSS, we were able to go this year, and I look forward to joining the AMS VP next year, whether in this position or otherwise, next year, while we will be good, honestly. All right, thank you so much.
Hey, I teach 3 times a week, and for some reason, even now, I thought it was cheaper. Let's speaking is I'm talking about, I'm running for the VP University and Academic Affairs position. I spent some time thinking about what to say today, and I found a really good place in the strategic plan that we have for the GSS. The plan is for 2021 to 2026, so it's set to expire. We need a new plan for the next 5 years. If you have not read that document, I encourage you to read it because it is an excellent document. It was prepared by GSS, some communities in the GSS Council. There are excellent ideas in there. There are some excellent goals that have been set 5 years ago. Some of the goals we met. Some of the goals have been some revisions, some of the goals, frankly, we've not made any progress. And I think it's a good place to start so that we can think about, we have to think about the next 5 years for sure. But we also need to reflect on why are some of those goals not met. And I'm going to specifically talk about the third theme that I found, which was regarding, so there were 2 things. First was graduate student experience. The other was about the recovery and resilience, about recovering from COVID, and keeping in mind sustainability and climate justice. And then the third thing was precisely about the GSS itself, our society, our weaknesses, our strengths, what do we need to do to become a more visible body? What do we need to do to become a more effective body? I think there are some really good ideas in there. I don't think we've made any progress on them. I think where we lack right now is an implementation. And I get it, we're grad students, we're overworked, we're underpaid, we're overwhelmed. It is hard work. We can't do this alone. We need to, given all the experience that we have, given all the skills that we have, everyone here, regardless of who makes it onto the exec team, I really hope for a more, effective team. And so, specifically with this, my plans for this role, my current strategy is just to educate myself as much as possible on what are our resources, what is our staff, and the GSS staff is our trend working here. And unfortunately, we won't have any continuity because there's no one running again for the position that they're running for. So we need all the knowledge that is there in the GSS. We need to come up with ideas. We need to, leverage all the experience that we have as grad students of having worked so much all the time, and really try to move us along that time. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I've been sitting all day in the lab, so I cannot sit anymore. If you don't mind me, that's kind of. I hope we had a very enjoyable day so far. I'm Jamal, and I'm a PhD student in physical engineering and computer science. And I've been VP of academics in Israel. And the reason why I'm wanting to be a student here is because I've been there and suffered a lot through being a graduate student. And I know the issues that are handling your supervisor dynamics, power issues, and don't let you study on funding. And I'm not gonna promise fate here because I'm not the person that who can increase the fundings, but I'm the person who can make sure this is more visible for graduate students. As others mentioned, it's not visible. This is for other graduate students, like another society that is doing something. But GSS is the first place that people has to be knocking the door. And from there, they have to be routed to the large resources that we already have. I'm not going to build another resource, another resource. We already have all of the resources for EDC. But I'm here to make those visible. And the way that I'm doing it is making an AI bot to training over the resources that we have. So the students come in, ask the questions, and it's going to be answered in a second. It's not going to be problems, it's not going to be forms that you have to wait for a week. So that's one of the plans that I have. The other plan is careers. And you already know that there are careers that are coming up and they are not effective because if you go there, you don't know how to speak or how to find the opportunity to seek, right? The way that we can make it better is to have a peer mentorship program. So people that are already in the industry from EDC alumni, you have to pair them with your students. I know you're doing that very fun. I'm going to do it in a unified way at GSS. It's going to be more creative and more fun. And talking about supervisory and power dynamics. I've been in one of the workshops that UC hosted. It wasn't helpful because you're talking about something that is nonsense. That's not going to work with your supervisor because you're not there to see the alignment. I'm there and I know what to do. So I can help other students, or you can help other students because you have more experience handling those people. So that's going to be one of the main things that I'm going to hold on each during this right now.
Hello, my name is Haley, and I'm a second-year PhD student in the School of Population and Public Health. Vision, integrity, accountability, experience, dedication, adaptability, the ability to inspire, collaboration, strategic thinking. That is what the GSS needs, and I'm here to provide it. This is a pivotal year for us. We'll be developing the strategic plan from 2027 to 31. We have to assess our strengths, challenges, and opportunities. I'm proud to have contributed to the GSS over the past year and a half, recognizing that meaningful policy change requires first understanding how the organization functions. When the last strategic plan was drafted, the threat to us was the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we have a lot more to think about: economic insecurity, escalating conflict, and growing global instability. These shifting economic and political conditions pose risk to us, and the GSS must be proactive to address them. Before deciding to run for president, I spoke to graduate students across campus and I visited the food banks. I listened and I heard. Students told me they need financial security, they want to maintain their dignity. And so these are some of the things that I'll be lobbying for. Minimum funding of $27,000 for master's students, 50-year funding for PhD, a rent-free for on-campus housing, annual housing bursary for all graduate students, G+TF to increase the travel grants to 1,000 so students can at least afford a ticket to go to conferences. And I'll also work toward increasing the access for resources for food security and the GSS financial aid, and also to support and enrollment services hardship fund. The GSS does need to make change, but it can be very easy to discourage the organization without recognizing what happens behind the scenes. But I see my role as building consensus, negotiating respectfully, and fostering collaboration and teamwork that the society can operate effectively. A culture of respect is essential for constructive debate, partnership, and effective leadership. With regards to the union, I understand that QP 2278 represents grad students as workers. GSS represents grad students through university governance. I recognize the contribution that both organizations have made through lobbying and significant efforts to increase funding for PhD students. So this will improve financial security, productivity, and student well-being. Although the two organizations have distinct mandates, they're previously collaborated through the Student Worker Advocacy Group. So there are other opportunities for us to strengthen our collaboration through further advocacy. Thank you.
Okay, so this week, actually, next portion of the debate. So now I'm gonna open up the floor to questions. If you have any questions for specific candidates, you can just say that you can question, or if you have a question, you can position, just do down.
I have one for Johnson. So the NBA is known for being a challenging program and a very exciting testimony. How would you have applied to develop in this role? And are you considering taking part in the relationship towards some?
Yeah, turn it on first. Make sure you turn it on first.
I'm
It's on.
considering taking an internship, but I'm not getting 100% results in that. So because of that, I'm also giving more options to myself. So this is also one of the things which I wanted to try. And other than that, MBA is difficult and it's only for one period, that is from September to December. Now I have elected, so I have to time available to work for this. I have time.
I think that's one really important aspect of what's with. I want to share with you, I'm also a master's student. I mean, at the DJ, it's also in this program, but I'm going to share with you that I completed all my academic requirements. So if I'm lucky, you have my academic requirements. You have every working hard that I have, dedicated to GSS, dedicated to achieving the goals that you see done. this is something I feel very privileged to be into. I understand other students have intensive programs, but I thought this was absolutely exactly right.
I know we could piggyback off most things. In case we are clarifying, because of my experience with my startup that I currently am still a co-founder for, I do also run as a chief operating officer for that. I have really perfected my time management skills. Every hour, every half hour of my schedule is very intentional. So I said, I'm not a student, so sorry. But yeah, no, it isn't a requirement to be, like, it's not just 13 hours, I know that's like a courtesy to put in with its description. But I want to vouch for myself and say anything that I would do would be very intentional, and that's outside of, that's beyond just being physically within the building at my desk or just with my emails.
So I've been involved with the GSS as the governance and accountability chair, and that's given me a good opportunity to see how the society operates and understand the time commitments that would be required. Personally, I would have done my comprehensive exams by the time I take up the role. And so that would give me more time to dedicate towards the role. And a part of being a leader, it's also knowing when to increase resources and when to form additional committees. So that would be one of the things that we're going to be looking at if I'm successful when we're doing the strategic plan. So planning and time management are things that I'll be able to bring my experience to.
More questions? You've seen kind of like the last after the liaison between and the GSS in terms of advocacy. What do you know about that? That's how they made as what they can do.
Thank you for that question. I think it's sort of touched on emphasize where my understanding is coming from the fact that I'm a member of I should, as a member of the I should know that all this. But from that basis, I understand that. But I also understand that for the most part, the GSS institution has not had the same engagement and commitment to fighting for the right to unite that probably should be appropriate. I understand that a lot of the efforts have been led through the community, but have not been led through the powerful leadership. And what I can is that if I'm elected, you have my full attention, not only to the security issues of the GSS, of students, of which this is primary. And we can fight not, in parallel with PP, but hopefully, in my experience, in conjunction with them. Fight for not just at the little board, fight here with the administration, advocating for the whole entire recognition. Something that we've seen that as a youth while we walk it back is possible. Something that we have a moral responsibility, understanding how particularly some of the research relationships are between research students and their families.
Yeah, so my question is for all the candidates. Please explain how, if you're already involved with the GSS, your main criticism of the GSS is, and if you're not already involved with the GSS, why haven't you been involved before? Yeah, I currently serve on the governance and accountability committee. I've been doing that for the past few months. I honestly haven't been around enough to know of any concrete criticisms, to be honest. I don't have any criticisms at organizations that I'm just still learning how they function and how they interact with the student body. And yeah, so apologies for not being able to hold into that question.
Thank you so much for that question. So I'm a first year PhD student, so but I have been here for about like several months now. And what I've heard like majorly is like sometimes feedback doesn't deliver to the GSS. For instance, like I work for the I-Core, like which is the VGH hospital center. And then sometimes living over there at off campus location, they don't have the option to participate in some of the event or services at their regular hour. So I see like the opportunity over here to do those students all together, as well as I think it's one important thing I think the other also mentioned is to create like this community and a network that is span like beyond graduation. So we are like as a community overall, but like it's also important also we can bring more people to support us and as a community together.
Yeah, appreciate the bringing that together. I guess in terms of, I think, you've been here 2 months, I've also been here a few months, but I've been quite deeply involved with GSS myself. There have been opportunities for committee openings or various things that come up. Is it a communication issue? You just weren't made aware of these? Was it a capacity issue? Or I'm just part of it's also trying to diagnose why.
Yeah, I think later it's about the location as well as the hours that like the event and services are happening. Because like as far as student, I was like for me, usually have a 9 to 5, like it was my lab, and then there's sometimes this hour commitment. So sometimes I think it's difficult for those students to make their time to come in like the middle of their day to get to like some of the their service like the Tuesday and then also like other classes we offer during the busy season. So I think that was one of the issues here about those complaints that I really want to like make room for them as well.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm, as I mentioned, I'm looking for GSS and looking to member in the academic and external community. And and so previously, I was also part of the student worker group that was after, that was a collaboration between the union and GSS. So there is a relationship between the union and GSS that exists. There are students for union reps that are counselors as well. And I would definitely support that relationship by encouraging collaboration and supporting ongoing relationships. In terms of GSS and what I saw work groups for growth or opportunities to improve, definitely as it applies to UPS with budget and organization formation, I think that is a little bit lacking. There are departments that don't have affiliate organizations, and that is a solid way that you can reach out to graduate students and foster connection, but also support these organizations and hosting events. An example is as part of TAP's non-departmental student organization, I have communicated with different UPS
I would like to do something that I said just now. Because the problem of this is between the GSS, even in each of those students associations, and students in their own. And to answer your question specifically, I knew when part of the reason why I've not necessarily been involved is because I didn't know how to. I go to class every single week, every single day this week. Was class, going across the street from here. And I didn't understand how to get involved in GSS. I didn't understand, I didn't get into our student association. I was involved in those programs, the event with GSS, and the issues going on so far away in the like physically far away from your off campus, the programs off campus, not to mention the forced ability, other stuff campus, right? This kind of physical distance manifests itself as something kind of social distance. And large part of why not only myself, but a lot of people who are really passionate about this kind of goal are as involved as they could be. And part of what I'm comfortable is that is to close that not only social distance, but physical distance. If you can't come to GSS, you will be. Thank you.
sorry.
Okay.
Right, thanks for that question, Brian. So I have not been involved in GSS, since moving to Vancouver, originally from Edmonton, Alberta. But my experiences with GSS have been nothing but positive, especially the organization. I have a lot to thank for that. I had moved here a week before, and I met a lot of people in non-specific faculty through the orientation that we have. In order to answer your question on why I have not been involved, I think the communication, with the current, people running, working in with the essential external and the students, I think they're doing a great job. I do subscribe to your emails, and getting the events. It's more so, and this is just pure transparency, the faculty of pharmaceutical sciences and buildings on the other side of the campus. So that is a me personal, decision. So running as VP external, I will try to expand some of the events. I know some of them are in the rec north or like buildings. I will expand more of them to cross campus. Another reason is Farside does have its own within faculty. No, stay good.
For me, I can just say that I'm indirectly involved because I just attended events of the GSS. I'm not directly involved in any of the councils and GSS because I got to know what GSS late. But when I got to know, I was reflected and that's how I was with this one and joined the. So that's an opportunity for me. But that's what I can say.
Thanks for the question, Brian. I guess I'll start with what I do with GSS. I'm the top science committee and the investment committee. For those people doing like that seems like 4 hours a week, but it would be really kind of, to be fully transparent, actually, how I am as kind of a beautiful kind of helping them get a lot of their non-people GMS and media districts and media external portfolios that I have in recent memory. And that was a lot of work on my end, and the rest of Solomon Parents team. So I was doing that, but I'm not letting anybody this year. So I am looking to fill up my remaining hours. And I think our lovely people in my community might know what my issue is with the GSS, because I'm not particularly quiet about it. But I have a real issue with the way, and this is like the most minute governance oriented detail I could ever come up with. But meeting minutes and agendas are very hard to access for groups. When I read meeting minutes, so I'm not currently, going through a medical program for my disability that is on Thursday nights. I cannot move GSS council. I try and read what happens in GSS council, and I am left confused. There are, yeah, no worries, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Am I already involved with GSS? Yes, I'm a current GSS chancellor. I'm also as a chancellor on the executive oversight committee on the GSS. I think the first speech was kind of an answer to your question, but I repeat, I think my main criticism of the GSS is the following that I don't think we have the visibility. We're not effective. We're not executing our plans as effectively as we could be. And this is, I want to know what this is a function of. Is it too much work? Is it because the vaccines and processes or post vaccines and we're juggling multiple things? Do we need more staff? Do we need more positions? Do we need to divide it quickly? So that would be
That's better. I think as already mentioned from the practice, it seems that I'm overwhelmed with statistics things like 6 out of 10 going on in bodies. So that's a big deal in my opinion. It seems to be the reserve and privileged knowledge about cases, knowing that it's existing. And I think other candidates are right, it's an applicability problem. And I know that because I have friends that are higher degree like 3 years in PhD, they have been here, and from there I know there is something like this. So I think the way that you can break that is by having co-hosting events with existing affiliation organizations like PCE, GSA that are directly involved over on the graduate students. I have a lot of work to do. I'm going through their events. But we could have that collaboration, but other jobs as well. So I think that will be.
Thanks, Brian. Well, my experience was as soon as I got here, to campus, I sought out the organization and I found out what it was about and I joined the committee as a committee member. Then I investigated and found out that no one was actively representing my department, and I put myself forward to become a counselor. And I was a counselor, well, I still am a counselor, ordinary member. I moved up to chair when the chair resigned. I stood up to that position. But I've also attended the GSS activities myself. Some of you have been seeing me at games nights. I've done the painting of the tote bag. So I do try to get involved and to meet people and to speak to them about their experiences, because I know that that's important. But I think we need to do that on a wider scale, and we need to find out what it is that students would like to have from us, in terms of activities to become more involved, because sometimes we do have them and we don't get as much attendance as we would like. So rather than trying to diagnose the problem ourselves, I think we should talk to students. Thank you.
I just really wanted to finish my thought, is that, I love the part, yeah, so sorry.
Yeah, I think as we think, we all say that the GSS not well, maybe it's students, but it's such a long, what do you say, maybe, well known. So we question we're going to do. What we do. So it's still probably all the candidates thing, but very good into. Patient.
That's exactly what I'm just gonna bring up. So my reason for not being president is because my faculty does have a very robust, student organization. You have to fund it and people involved in order to be able to do that. As we get started, I think we should be reaching out to more faculty representatives, where the forestry students, where we have so many diverse faculties on campus, and if we're reaching out to organizations already established and then leveraging their communications to bring everyone in, I think would be awesome. I think it's not really a lack of interest, really, like, we just don't know. And if I do have time to go to that, it's going to develop with the farm side, with society, but maybe if we collaborate with them and brought all the kids from, all the grad students from farm side, all the graduate students from SPPA, and forestry faculty, I think what our turnout would be great, and the community that we're establishing would be strong. Does that answer your question?
Awesome. Thank you so much for the question. As a BPXL candidate, I would argue that my job is less making GSS known for the students, but rather making GSS actually known at the table when we start along the amount of city councilors. I've had to explain that the GSS group exists, so group is kind of embarrassing. The provincial, money club, they barely know what the MS is. They definitely don't know what GSS is. And making sure that we're actually at the table, letting people know that we exist, that we have demands, that we have wants that we want fulfilled, that's really important. And part of being able to do that is being able to have representatives in those rooms and actually get our asses on the table. We need to exist in these spaces because right now, they don't think they're missing anybody.
Really confusing about how there's this not just this optimal brains, not just during campus, but beyond campus as well. And one aspect of that is that how can we call and demand to be representatives of students if the students here don't know who we are? Isn't that strange? Isn't that a smart to ask? So yeah, like what do we do? We need to bring the GSS to students. We need to bring the GSS with these massive students at the regular student societies. We need to be building not a top-down system, but a hub and spoke model that advocates and understands their expertise as representative of that program, and making sure that feedback comes here. That we are going there and they are coming here. Making sure that we can build that network. Because if we can't break down this siloing in this university, we can't advocate for things that are important to students. And it's not just abroad, it's administration.
So I just elaborate more on what I said before and, talk about the concrete, steps I wanted to make to ensure that students would be more involved in GSS, but they also can get more involved. So departmental AOs, my vision for how it can, improve student engagement is by increasing the departmental AO funding, where we are giving a financial incentive for students to organize themselves within their department, but also nominate counselors so that they're going to have an active role in council. And through that attendance, we will get engagement, but also we will be supporting their events. And this will also work the other way, where if they're not attending council meetings, they may use that funding so that they are more motivated, the loss aversion to actually attend these meetings and communicate what happens to these students.
Thanks for the question. So I acknowledge what everyone is saying about getting more involved with the affiliate organization, but I've also been to several activities that have been put on for affiliate organizations, and they're not necessarily well attended either. So that is why I'm saying that we need to find out from students what they need from us rather than us trying to diagnose the problems. Because if we continue down this route, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get improvement. Because we talked about is what can we do to get more students involved. So we need to hear from students and consider their comments before we can actually formulate a plan. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of graduate students, like when I started out, the first thing that I thought about, the first organization that I found out about was the AMS, because I saw something in the piece regarding some AMS piece when I wanted to pay my tuition. So then I found out about QP because they were they were essentially to TAs, and in the TA organization they mentioned. But I eventually found out about the GSS because I saw that the AMS GSS had the health plan that affects me. So as a graduate student, you know about the organizations, precisely when it affects you, when it affects the issues in place. And so then the question doesn't really become about how do we increase the visibility. The question is, how do we impact more things that affect graduate students, right? So in my second year with PPGR, there was a good campaign fair, and I did so much, and it affected me. It affected me as a graduate student. So I knew more about it. So really, it's about what it is that we need to do more about.
Hi. PPTT78 is currently in bargaining with the university for a new collective agreement for teaching assistants, academic assistants, and exam invigilators. Some of you have talked about the role of supporting GRE's right to unionize, but I'm wondering in bargaining this year, how do you envision the role of the GSS and the individual roles in supporting bargaining for wages and health care and workplaces for others?
I'll start off first. So as VP external, again, I'm more on the external functions, but I do really think that while the GSS and QB and I have worked together, I think that needs to be a little bit more apparent, especially during bargaining. Solidarity is everything during bargaining, credible structure is everything during bargaining, and knowing that you have community support is everything during bargaining. And I think, we are, as graduate students, reliant on what jobs we can get to be considered his viciously on our behalf to keep those jobs and make them good wages and make them give us as much rights and protections as we get. Very least we can do is show that back out. And I think that's really important to just make sure that is a front facing policy of the GSS. It also means that any students that know the GSS but don't know Fupi can help get involved that way, and we're fighting for the same goal through different avenues. We just have to be loud and support each other about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know how hard it is, with this field, bargaining, unionizing, and how important it is that sometimes we force against the music workplace. You know, I had a job back in 2021 where myself and the rest of my colleagues in my department, we attempted to unionize. And we quickly, after we made that decision, we wound up, the organization we were looking for fired the entire department. We went through the process of contacting the, IDW local that was helping us unionize. And we eventually made a case to the National Labor Relations Board and successfully won that case and, actually got back pay. And, it was a really good time. But I mentioned that just because I really believe that we have to be solidarity, that we have to be out there with, whether it's on informational line or rallies or just making our presence here unified and making it very clear that we, as representing, the graduate students, that we are standing in solidarity and that we are the union.
I wanna express some very good clips, right? Like, I wanna be very clear that there will be times in the GSS and the union may have to. That's a reality that's going to happen. That could happen. I don't discuss you or I promise you as a data market, you have my phone number, that every union member has my phone, that has the way and know that how to work with it on each of them. Where we're like, in practice, we both represent the same students, graduate students working in this university. And it's important that we recognize that we have a key responsibility in supporting their rights, their union rights specifically. And so what does that mean then? It means that whether you're the ones that the GSS is out there fighting to ensure that students don't process rights. It means that when you are bargaining with people, that we are going to, we're there, we are present, we're with them, they say, hey, well, those are graduate students, those are our students, we are treating them. Ensure that they understand every role that we have to use that. And well, the reality is that there will be sections. And one part that when there are sections that nothing work, we need to call our teams out there and do.
Thank you. My position is that the GSS represents students in university governance and teaching and student workers. I don't think as president, it would be my role to be making decisions about how much involvement GSS has with the union. I think what should happen is as a committee and executive that we would make that decision after discussing it with the union, because there are certain things that the union, as far as I understand, it doesn't want us to do. And one of them I understand is getting involved in bargaining or speaking about it in a certain way. So we need to both communicate with each other, understand what each other expects. I think it's worth us, the GSS, having a proper plan. I think it needs to go into our strategic plan so that when we meet, the executives that come in and replace us will be able to follow the plan to foster that relationship so that we can support advocacy on campus and ensure that we educate our members about the union and what bargaining is all about and how the union helps to support the rights of members.
Yeah, as external, there's two aspects. So advocacy and negotiation within this relationship of GSS and UPP. And I think advocacy will have to come from outreach. It's external as an external organization within UPC and on that side. I think getting logistics and numbers for what are the hours of these DRAs and teams working, or how can we getting internal pays and having the tangible numbers to take first that we can advocate with. And then the negotiation really comes to one being present and someone who's willing to argue and defend. So I think an argument defended with real numbers of here's what our graduate students are contributing, is what's going to bring any kind of progress in this negotiation. Thank you. I think it will come off of their opposing organizations, but I think it's generally both are supporting graduate students, and we should build collaborative relationships between the two, which is the outreach goals that I have to organize collaborative events with students and GSS so that these events will allow visibility for both organizations so that students feel comfortable coming forward with issues that they have.
My question's primarily for present candidates, but anybody else that wants to answer. The strategic plan being expiring this year. It can be really important for ensuring continuity in organizations. But what happens a lot with strategic plans is when you get renewed, it's just the same thing with new numbers and dates. So what is one concrete new thing that you're looking at, the strategic plans?
I think one thing that we definitely have to go into the plan is about how we're going to engage with students to find out exactly what they want from us, so we can increase our visibility and also increase their population with activities that we're engaged with. And the strategic plan itself can be something that could help us to do that, because students will actually have the chance to, if they would like to comment on the strategic plan. And as we work on it together as a committee, it's going to be something that's going to be done over a period of time. It's a working document for a good amount of time that will give us the chance to finalize exactly how we will do that. But that would be something that I think that we should include, because it's been raised as a concern.
Thank you very much for the question. I mean, let's be very clear. What is the strategic plan? What do you come? Fundamentally, if I'm elected, I'm calling for a key and fundamental examination of the GSS. What does it mean to represent students, and what does it mean to represent a student university that is at times significantly at odds, especially when it comes to the rights of our members to be bargaining. Please understand that the GSS needs this consequential examination and understanding of itself before we move forward. But that also means understanding how we build equity, inclusion, diversity into the institution of the GSS, and not just as something the GSS is concerned about or aware of or engaged with. But it's how we build that institutions and mechanisms of the GSS so that there are representations for indigenous students, for members of Muslim minorities, and especially National students who are often very, very with not just as research institutions or creates, but also as I thought of this strategic plan, now I'd be responsible, I should contribute something here. I'm actually going to push back a little bit and say that you said we should add some, what do you think we should add? I think there's a bunch of great things there, and it's completely fine for those ideas to be put back in, because a lot of those goals we have not met. And it is okay to revise some of those. So for example, we had a recent announcement that we should decide following, for example, funding as a minimum fund for all departments for our PhD students, but then what does that number really mean? Does that mean we should remove the funding from the speech plan? I don't think so, because I don't really know what that means for graduate students. I don't know. And there's nothing in there for master's students. So do we add something for the sake of writing a document? Maybe not. But we should really think about what it is for that students, what affects that students, and what would affect them.
I have one question, but I guess I'll just go with this for the VP service, probably Alicia. Your guys' I see that most like everyone has their own goal. I see basically no thing wrong. If you go 3.4, you look for the I really feel like if when you get elected, we're getting on that drive on everything. Because I like a little bit of fun. But it also makes me feel like not doing anything. And I want to know how to, at all these times you actually work on those and you get to know that to be offered.
That's down.
Well, I think you just highlighted something really important that we have three qualified, well-qualified candidates up here. And regardless of whether or not I win, I really hope I get to work with either of you to actually make some progress, especially on the issues around youth homelessness and indigenous students that I really care about. And if I wind up winning, I extend the same offer to you. But I really think that, you know, it takes a village to make sure that we have a holistic advocacy agenda. And it can't just be like my opinions, can't just be the things that I'm looking to do. We need to be bringing people in, not just filling up the room with our own needs.
Thank you, Johnson, no thanks. I do want to swear, I have, so my main motivation was I want to partner with companies and industries outside of UBC and kind of have long-lasting relationships. So they're coming and presenting and showing, here's our hiring logistics. Here are the people with X degrees, because not every master's student, not every PhD student, sorry, not every graduate student is doing a thesis-based thing that might naturally flow into our research, right? So we need to make sure there's career opportunities for our graduate students, but then there's also kind of doing the advocacy on campus, part of external, so with PB227A. That's still something that I will be working on. I'll also be continuing the projects at VT Path. So these are just things that I right now have seen a gap with GSS, especially the career aspect of it. But advocacy for funding, advocacy for GREs and TAs, advocacy for houselessness on campus, and mental health supports for all students. Specifically, we just got.
Yeah, so one big winner is what Carl said, but you are looking at three different candidates, and all of them with experiences, right? We're all gonna have different priorities, which makes sense. Thank goodness, the way that the GSS does VP external is not giving us a bunch of money on our phone and just us getting ourselves into the board. We work with a lot of people. I know, like, for me at least, in the past years, election season is a great time to see, you know, sure, we're competing against each other now, but the election ends by the end of the month. And come April, you know, I'm looking at two incredibly qualified candidates that know what they're doing and have such passion for the university. And, you know, graduate students think that, why would I not use that? You know, regardless of what happens, I clearly identify allies here to work forward. And all of our priorities are very important, and all of them will be probably more or less included, because ultimately, we're a council, and we're gonna do things together as a council. Obviously, students are gonna do a Senate as well.
I just want to share that, you know, I think all of us today, we will see that how to students with GSS and the control this platform. I want to express that clearly, because no matter which of us win, I have a strong belief that GSS will be here. And part of why I'm wondering that there are issues that I think are important, but we deserve to get that here, right? And we deserve to get that because thank you. I know Harry Booth is something for the issue that we've highlighted, so.
Thank you, Edward. I would just like to say that, yes, I do believe that there are things that the GSS can improve, but I'm going to distinguish of it by saying that I don't think that we need a restructure. I think what we need to do is to look at our strengths and our weaknesses and look at the opportunities, and that we can work together as a team, engage more students, and we'll be able to improve our goals in that way. My experience with the GSS, we need to come to that conclusion.
Hi, so my question is regarding the minimum funding increase to $40,000. So what sort of problems do you anticipate will be there in its implementation? And how will you ensure those health problems are addressed? Question to the president candidates or anyone with an person.
So I will certainly make the number, we
So with the 4,000, one thing I can say is that with that increase, what other increases can you consider that? That number's not gonna come from nowhere, and are we going to try to justify increase for why research roles and that we do less, et cetera, et cetera? Is we should, because we need to understand, full functional details of what that increase is. What you're going to try to, honestly, that is going to try to cut as a result, and how can we ensure that PhD students get the full support that they deserve? And I mean, previously, mentioned, master's students are members of our boards. And to understand that, yes, there are two votes, but it's understand that any advocacy that the GSS does has to work for all, this has to work for all the students and not just PhD students, but also master's students.
Never mind, I'm not gonna do that. So, thank you. So I'd like to say from the outset that we don't actually know how that funding is going to operate in the different departments. As it is now, the funding is operated in different ways depending on where you're doing your studies. And I think we need to wait until it actually happens. And then we need to reach out to graduate students to find out how it's being administered. And that is how we're going to collect the evidence to decide what we need to do about it afterwards. But in my discussions with students, for example, I went to the engineering department and there was a student there that told me they didn't get any funding for their first year. And they wanted to actually know if they would be entitled to the fourth year in their fifth year, basically. So I think there's going to be a lot of unique examples like that we'll have to go back to the university to find out how that will apply in those specific cases in terms of fairness for that student.
The question was what specific issues we see,
Yeah, what problems do you anticipate in implementing?
right, so. What we've already started seeing, so for example, I'm going to be example. And our department, while they previously would used to say that our minimum funding is, let's say 28,000 and 30,000, after the increase was announced, they said, the funding is 40,000, which includes the tuition. So essentially, we don't get any increase at all. And you see a lot of the departments doing that, they'll include the tuition in the package that they're offering. Now, does that mean that because of the increase, we will see no change? No, that's not true. I think one of the good things that it's going to do is going to raise the floor of departments, which were already on the lower end, and they did not have as much funding for the science, or physics, or physics. That's great, but we do need to, like we need to try to see how the different departments interpret this and implement this. Maybe they try to get us to do more leadership and stuff, and do that work to get that.
Yeah, so I think as Lachlan said, we don't have a lot of knowledge on this, frankly, the Senate kind of comes for everybody with that decision. I'm really glad to see it, but implementation remains incredibly vague, and having worked with the university for almost 5 years, do I think they're just going to give all the departments money? No, I do not. And we're seeing a lot of issues already, like I have done in political science department, kind of struggling because his supervisors got dumped scared by the fact that he now has to pay my friend $40,000, and that's not $40,000 a month. So we're seeing a lot of things. We're seeing a lot of things coming into possibly TA shifts, possibly into GRA shifts, and I think it's really important that these goals remain protected and also remain crystal clear. And that I'm going to put once again we also need to have strong relationships with the union. We, as master students, when we receive our offer of, funding, we're not going to want to detail. So maybe even like a number on a page, and then maybe anything like mine, one line about it, and it doesn't say, is that including a TA shift? Is that including a GRA shift? What is that including? And ultimately coming back down to the what are we entitled to as workers, as GRAs, as TAs, or even as people producing research on the university will ultimately profit on if you get grants. And I think that's just really what we're looking at right now. Nobody knows, so we'll see how this unfolds in September.
Yeah, with this increase, the problems that I think that would be especially relevant to external is when we're trying to advocate and negotiate for more funding to the government. Maybe they're gonna say, you just got my money, what's the reason? And like everyone's gonna say, it's really gonna come down to looking in the books and on paper and explaining, okay, well, we got this money, but this is now the downfall, and here's why we're asking, continuing to ask for more money. Again, with the unions, the same argument follows, where you're gonna use this against us, you just got more money, so why should we pour more into you? And as external, that's on this position, and on my position to then do my homework and be able to justify why we need more about this instead of not. Thank you.
We have time for one more question, and then we'll be closing. And then we'll be on with
I work to talk about housing, UBC housing regulations, and ideally they would be under RDA, which is hard, and if we should have slightly better contract than we have right now, because the current one is really bad. Do you see a pathway to that what exactly would you focus on?
Yeah, there's a question. Sorry, I'm still ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. What is the pathway to get there? How do we get the contracts? Okay, that's music to my ears. As somebody who's a registered member of the Vancouver Taxi Union, particularly the UBC branch. I actually wrote a very long brief for the AMS. November, I want to say, for a student tenancy agreement, particularly because the RTA cannot apply to student housing because it's housing reserved for students, which is a reserved class. Because of that, legally, we're not getting the RTA extended. What is possible, however, after talking to multiple MLAs, is a student tenancy agreement. Essentially, the same thing, but acknowledging that student housing needs to be protected and that students are not a overprivileged class. Is some MLAs not alleged, which I thought was shocking, but I, for one, it's my job, it's would be my job external to advocate for that, and I'm already in the room, already starting around it, no more.
Really quick, thank you so much for your hard work in that front. I mean, that is something that every single one of us. My primary focus in this aspect is to understand that as the GSS, as the organization of the GSS, it has to be focused on this issue with as confusion of society. And if we're not, it doesn't matter how many resources are coming together that one individual person on the executive person, if the whole GSS is not happening executive. And it's the same, it's the same with the housing team, it's the same with our possibility, it's the same transparency. If the GSS does not have the mandate for the students to fully move together and push for these efforts, because of these goals, and they would have you to go to the general public and say, here's what we're fighting for you for, here's what we're doing for you, here's the issues that they really energize us. If you can't do that, then really you're not going to be able to achieve it. And it has to be face to face, but it has to be us directly.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that as GSS, we represent the students, when I'm BC something, and I said, continue with the advocacy that's going on. But also connect more with the university and those in positions of power representing UBC. It's a large institution, again, where many, I think, more power. And with the voice of the students and representing them, I think I should be leveraging UBC stance and power to then advocate for these rights and policies.
Thank you. I will repeat what everyone is saying. Has said in terms of advocacy so far that the GSS has done in terms of housing. But I would like to say that on my platform, one of the things that I'll be doing, looking at lobbying for actually, is a freeze for on-campus renting. Seems to keep going up every year, but then Metro Vancouver rent has gone down by 7.9%. So that might be something that we could tackle in the short term. And also annual housing bursaries for graduate students is also something that we're going to be looking into. And just to quickly reply to my earlier opponent, Edward's point, we do provide students with a lot of information on our annual general meeting, and it's usually well attended, and that's when students get to find out our priorities for the past year, what we've achieved, and what we plan for the next coming year. Thank you.
So, communities,
Question? We're gonna move on to the closing remarks. So candidates will have 2 minutes to, for budget campaign for this debate section. We'll start at, Bill, and then I'll start with you.
Right, self-response.
Yes, I would like to first thank all the candidates and to thank my worthy opponent, Edward. There were some great ideas today, and I look forward hopefully to working with you. Now, I moved to Canada from the UK. I've had a whole other career before this, and I've served on a lot of committees in the UK, and I'd like to bring that experience here. But one of the interesting things is now that I've stopped working and I'm a graduate student, I'm really feeling the pinch just like everyone else. And that's why the stories that I've heard really resonate with me. So I've included those points on my platform. I have worked to strengthen oversight and clarify processes and improve organizational transparency. The fact that I'm a second-year PhD student means I'll be around for another 3 years, and I have no plans to leave the GSS. I realize how important stability is for our society. So if elected, I'll foster collaboration across committees and the broader graduate community to advance the initiatives that matter most to students. And I'll prioritize responsible stewardship of our resources and consistent execution of initiatives so that the GSS can operate with the competency and consistency that graduate students expect. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being here. It was a very nice session. It was a very good brainstorming, by the way. So all of us here are to solve the problems that we're facing. So I want to do 2 important things. We have a lot of resources right now, and they are from us. And what I'm going to do is to build them on ourselves. And bring over what we have already. The problem with trying to keep people trying to get that in mind is that it's so small that doesn't know all of the information about what we have. And the second thing that I want to do is make a unified mentorship program that all of us can use it for finding jobs in industry or people that are already doing that. Are the best people to ask questions and go and answer together. And the power dynamics that are already faced, that could be explained by the computer that came out of this.
I'm not gonna use the whole 2 minutes. I think this is exciting. I think that's exciting times. Get to have a new plan, we need to go to the platform, what went right, what went wrong. We have some indications of the university that whatever collective lobbying we're doing is working in some way or the other, because they don't give us a mention, we should really back that to the hospital. I know that we did.
Yeah, I guess I'll finish it up. You won't seem to be here for a little bit, but I'm gonna advocate. Frankly, I've got to advocate on quite a few things that I've already been working for. I'm talking about getting real rental agreements that make sense and don't go up 5.7%, like they did 2 years ago for me in my campus. I'm talking about getting food security, because how are we meant to do our jobs if we are hungry? When the university is this big, I just don't see why we're not getting food bank funded. You know, I'm talking about doing things with the union, we need worker rights, we need contracts, we need paychecks that we need, like, you know, normal things would, and we're gonna get that through the union. That means a strong relationship, that means that means listening to them, that means working with them, that means being loud and proud about it. And finally, I really just want to put forward, like, it's so amazing to be sitting here with all of you. I don't get excited about elections very often, I was really competitive, but I'm just very excited here about this is a great, spread, and so. To everybody else with GSS, I think we're in good hands next this year, thank you.
Well, thank you all, and also for the meeting. And you can see I'm becoming whether I'm passing the marks every time, being a mediator to itself. So I try my best to be the mediator, which is here at the university, making it more transparent and pass the feedback. And he asked me that I'm an investigator, I won't give more time. But I keep GSS as my main priority if I select it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It is more than a privilege to be here and trying to run for this position. I think we are always reminded that what a privilege it is to have access to post-secondary education or reasons that we are at UBC, but we do need to remember UBC is a nationally and internationally renowned university because of us. Because of the work that graduate students do. So as VP External, reiterating my campaign, I want our graduate students to have the other half of this deal. If we are coming to this university, we're putting in work, we're coming every day. I'd like for our graduate students to have solidified career plans afterwards. I'd like for us to know that there are industries or organizations outside of UBC that want to hire UBC graduates. I want to remember that the provincial and federal government is looking at specifically our organization and saying, I need to learn my rights here. And I am willing to be an advocate for the graduate students on campus. We just really big guys in their suits and ties to get this money and let us do a good job afterwards. Thank you.
I want to read you all the things just a little bit more on myself. And what I really was very want people like that who came to this university in 1992 could be a PhD Frenchman. He later went on that's a master's, but of course besides that. 1992 really come here because that's the year when a lot of these friends were killed in the Israel massacre. Advocacy effort led by students in trying seeking office. And so when I say you, that I will always be your voice, I want to fight for you in your rights. I will advocate representatives of the administration to government. I mean, because that's me, I'm so completely not myself. I want to be protected. So when we were conscious about the issues at hand, when we were aware of the issues from, because of the expensive issues at hand, I want to emphasize number one that if I'm happy, I'm not the model. I'm going to be there for you every hour and every day, fighting for your rights, fighting for your representing your truth, outside the city to government. And my goal is to have the GSS do the same. I want to thank Kelly, where we're going here today. And it's, I appreciate the immense privileges I've grown up here, Metro Vancouver. I've grown up here as a NCW previous school here. I was condemned it off as in reference to statute university near Bussy. I love that statute that students both go and so forth, the right for students to advocate and students' rights to display. And so I want to make sure that we did. I want you to know where I stand and where I can go. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us time to listen and engage in this election. I won't go over, but I have mentioned in that introduction, that I will reiterate that as VP students, I will work to strengthen the support that graduate students get from GSS through advocacy, event planning, and authority outreach, VPC collaboration with the authority organizations, but also the external organizations like CBE and Science Study. I've heard you about supporting graduate students and helping ensure that GSS continues to represent and serve our community effectively. If elected, I will bring my experience in leadership, organization, and collaboration. I mentioned that I used to work at the federal government doing animal virus research, so I can deal with red tape, and I find an unusual and baby showers. So and really get it event. And I will end just by saying graduate students deserve to be with their heard, supported, and connected at UBC, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve at UBC. I will just start also with thank you everyone for being here, and we all have a very busy schedule, and then also thank you for all for the great participation and the debate, and also in the educational moment for me. So I know like grad school can be really hard, like we often get stuck in front of computer for late night, and then sometimes like we also share like the similar situation, and those are the struggle can be only understand by like dear grad student, and I want this like to be, that's why like I think community itself is so important. So we are all here together to make GSS better, and then also a place that you will feel comfortable and supported. So from my past experience, I also find myself like pretty excited and pretty happy to see if I'm creating a space for students, they feel connected, they feel supported, and then where they can feel that they are not alone, and then they have a company along the way. So we've selected as a weekly student, so I will focus on building that community and a network. So I also would like to bring a really nice into the community, and then also that our students feel comfortable, feel heard, and then also feel supported throughout their graduate degree. So I care deeply about GSS and also for this work. So I'll be honored if I get selected and I support the graduate student society. And I thank you so much for being.
First, I just want to thank you guys for some really thoughtful questions. And that's really made me think, and I can talk for a few of them because honestly, some of the answers that our other candidates were giving were just so great, and I'm like, damn, I wish I had thought about that. And it's clear to me that regardless of who you choose for VP of External Affairs, that we're in good hands. And now my closing pitch is simple. I'm a fighter. The passion of advocating for others and making systemic change happen runs through my veins. I have a wide range of experience, ranging from my time lobbying on behalf of hundreds of thousands of students at the Washington State Student Association, including 1 year where I was the VP of Federal Affairs, where I represented the state of Washington's public university students to the United States federal government, to lobbying on behalf of the Native tribes and specifically focusing on Indigenous education and Indigenous child welfare issues, serving my community and ensuring that the marginalized students have a voice on the Everett School Board. I believe that I have the qualifications and experience needed to hit the ground running and jump right into making a difference for students. Because at the end of the day, our students can't wait, their families can't wait, and whether I win this or not, I will make sure that I'm doing all I can to leave this community better off than I found it. Thank you for your time. My name is Charles Atkins, and if you want a fighter, I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
We actually have a small comment from our VP, from one of our VP.
I think I don't wanna sound butthurt, but maybe I know a little bit. It's great to know who you are and where you come from, but it's also useful to know where the GSS has been. I know people talk about how we haven't been at the table very much. We have been at the table with the AMS. And by ourselves, and we have also been, had a really close organization. This past year and over the years. So I just got a little bit butthurt about it, but I can't help it because the show is recommending knowing the facing office that it says on it, wherever it says that, it's not so high. Just wanted to say that really bit as my butthurt show.
Thank you so much, to all the attendees and to all of our candidates. So this concludes the debate. First, include here, so you can definitely grab, but just remember that voting for the GSS elections will start March 16th and will run till March 20th. So all the colleagues to vote. Very important as we see. All right, thank you so much.
Like, when you went on the candidates for the one.
Yeah. No, took off absolutely. So sorry, I was just going car. I mean. For my arm, your face. All right, how would we like to do this? We're doing this. Are we doing like one long row, we're going to rows, how best do we?
Yes, you're the only person who did it.
One is good, that is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, like, okay, great.